Hi, I'm Julie Hornock with United in Autism. I'm a parent of a child on the autism spectrum and also the author of the book, United in Autism, Finding Strength Inside the Spectrum. The foreword for this book was written by Temple Grandin, and the book is 30 stories of families living with autism from all over the world. I think it is so important that we share our stories. We need to share them to raise awareness and also just so people kind of know how to help us. So every week I'm going to bring you an interview with either an expert or a parent, and they're going to share all kinds of tips that are going to help you in your journey. I cannot wait for you to see who we have for you today. Hey everyone, I have Deidra Darst here today. I am so excited to introduce her to you. She is a mother of a child with autism. She's also a speech and language pathologist. She also is the author of 2 books. She wrote Buy One, Then Get One Free, which is her journey from infertility to autism. She also wrote this adorable children's book, Already Is Awesome. And this book honestly should be read in just every school. It's such a good view on how we're all different and how autism is just another difference. So anyway, hi Deidra, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Great, we're just so happy to have you. Tell me a little bit about your family.
Okay, well, you got me started. I'm a speech language pathologist. My husband and I, we were high school sweethearts. We started dating when I was 15, and we've been married 13 years now. That's some math there. Sorry, the phone call there. And Colin has severe autism. So that's pretty much us in a nutshell. We have a hobby farm. So right now we have chickens and ducks. Mm-hmm. And I think Colin wants horses someday and Finn wants pigs. So we'll see about that.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's fantastic. You talk a lot in your book about how you're a planner. And I can so relate. Like you talked about how you had your whole life planned out basically, and I mean I had the same. I had just my whole entire life planned out, and I think there's many of us that are planners, and then when something like infertility or autism hits us, we are just like thrown for a loop. So tell me a little bit about kind of that experience as a planner and things not going well or as you planned.
Right. Well, I wrote in the book, I think I was 17 when I sat down and wrote out my life plan. And it was very specific. You know, it was graduate high school, start college, get married, get my bachelor's, get my master's, buy a house, have a baby. And it was supposed to happen in that order. And things happened. And then when it was time to have a baby, it didn't happen. And that's just one of those things. You cannot control it no matter how much you want it to happen. You can't study hard enough to make it happen. There's just nothing you can do. You just pray about it and hope it happens. And when it didn't, it really shook up my world. Yeah. And I was angry at the world for a long time. Anytime I saw somebody having a baby, I was upset. I was mad at God for a long time and just couldn't understand why. But then at the same time, my relationship with God grew so much more in that time period than it ever had. And I think that's part of why it happened, because I needed that. But it just made me realize I can't control everything. Hindsight, that probably prepared me for autism too, because I definitely can't control that.
Yeah, I mean, and I think I remember my daughter being diagnosed with autism, and I really thought at first I could fix it. And that, that was the first time for me too, like your infertility, the first time for me where I just was like, oh my gosh, I can't fix this. I've never experienced something I couldn't fix. And I think it's so interesting how we deal with it, and we learn, this thing when we think of control it's like, it's non-existent. It's not even real. We don't have control.
You don't, not at all. And I think too, I was the same way, even though I had been through infertility and knew I couldn't control that, I couldn't fix it. When I saw the red flags with Colin, I just kept like hoping, oh, well, maybe he's just delayed. We can fix this. And it was this constant maybe we can fix it. It's okay. I'm a therapist. Maybe this is why I'm a therapist. God knew that someday I would have a child who would need me. Until it just got to the point where I thought, I can't fix this. I need more help. And that's when we called in early intervention. And even then, I still hoped, oh, if we get OT in here, they'll tell me what to do. We can still fix this.
Yeah.
And he was 3.5 before he got his official diagnosis, just because we didn't pursue it. He would have gotten it at 2 had we taken him.
Yeah.
But I think that's when it took me that long to be like, okay, you can't fix it, but you can help him. Mm-hmm. And that was a big shift for me of just the therapist in me seeing something and thinking I could fix it, and then realizing it's not something that necessarily needs fixed. He just needs help.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I think for me, and all parents that we think we're going to fix it, it's what it does is it takes away from the ability to enjoy our child now.
Yes.
And so I think that is so crucial, especially just that's one of my advice I give to new parents is, you know, you want so bad. Like, I mean, I remember I was like, if we can just get her to talk, you know, and then we'd have this. And then I'm like, oh, wait, here's 10 million more problems. Now that we got her to talk, let's try, like, okay, if we can just get her to have a friend. And then the minute that would happen, you think in your mind, everything's going to be okay and everything else will just come. And it never works like that. And so by the time you get to the end of where you think everything should be, you've basically missed their childhood. So it's so...
And I think I wrote about that. I'm not sure if it was in the book or if it's been on a blog that I've written, but I feel like I lost those 3 years because I look back and I just think, when I made that video, I was worried and I knew there was something wrong and I wanted the video to get that, you know, and it was just constant worry. And had I known it was autism, I feel like I would have been like, okay, it's autism. Here's what we have to do. But it was also that unknown of, well, maybe it's not. Maybe it's something else. And yeah, so I totally agree. It really takes the joy away.
Well, and if you're a planner like I am, there's comfort in that plan. And when there's no knowing what it is, there's no plan. And, you know, and so we rest in that plan, which our plan, I can guarantee every mom I've ever talked to, nothing went the way they thought it was going to, even after diagnosis.
Right.
I wanted my kid to be fixed in 2 years, and that's just crazy, you know, like, and she's doing phenomenal, but, you know, she still very much has autism, and you know what, she's awesome with autism, you know, like Artie is awesome. She's awesome. And I wouldn't take that away because it just makes her so fun and quirky and adorable, you know.
It's her, it's who she is.
Yeah, it's part, I know. And I struggle with that, who she is too, what if this is, even like taking a personality test, well, how much of this is her personality and how much is this is because the autism? And what we have to just let go of is this is all her, you know?
Yeah.
This is all our kids, and just stopping, and even silly stuff, just when we're at the park, just taking time to enjoy the silliness of who they are and the enjoyable, you know, the adorableness, especially when they're young. Is that a word, adorable? So, well, tell us.
It is now. It is.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a word. So, so dealing with infertility, and I just was curious how you worked so hard to have a baby, and it took so long, and I cannot even begin to fathom the emotions that you went through. How does that change your approach to motherhood as you finally got pregnant and had a baby? How did that change your view of motherhood?
I had to think about this one when you asked me that. And I think, not to say that all moms don't love their babies and they don't value them, because I know they do, but just that struggle of being told you will never have a baby and then you finally have one, I think I maybe do cherish that a little more, and maybe more so than I would have had I just had a baby. And I mean, people will probably take that the wrong way. I still would have loved them and cherished them, but it's just a little more special to think, you know, 6 years ago, I was thinking I would not have kids. And then here I am now, and I have 2 perfect little boys. And it just, I think it makes me appreciate it. It makes me slow down a little bit and really think, okay, yeah, autism's hard, but what if you never would have had the chance to be his mom? You know, that was potential outlook for me, that I wouldn't have been a mom at all. And I would much rather have him with autism than to not have him at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's such a good thing, like such a big picture thing to remember. I mean, I know it's just horrifying every time we get on the computer and we pull up and there's a child with autism that has been lost and has drowned or something has happened. And I feel like the idea of not having them puts everything in perspective. Like that mom is not able to hold their baby, or a mom that was never able to have kids is not holding that child. I'd so much rather have a child with autism and all the challenges that come along with it, because I still get to love them and enjoy them and help them with their future. So I love that gave you that perspective and that you can share that with us. So thank you I know that was not easy. So thank you for sharing that with us. So kind of tell me some of the treatments and therapies you did that you have felt helped your son, because I know you said he's severe, so you have some pretty intense challenges.
The biggest thing has been ABA. I mean, it has changed our lives. It was the answer to my prayers, back to thinking I could fix it. When he was 3 and aged out of early intervention, I thought he needs more. This is not enough. I don't know what to do. And outpatient therapies, I knew how those worked because I've worked there. It would be an hour a week, and that still wasn't enough. So I left my job for a year because I thought if I can just stay home with him and work intensely, one-on-one, make all day, language intensive, we can fix this. And he was making progress, but it just wasn't enough, because in my mind, he was 3, he had to go to preschool the next year. So I thought I can get him ready for preschool because I've worked in those classrooms. I know what's expected. And it's a lot for any 4-year-old, but then a 4-year-old who already has challenges, he was just not ready. And I had a really negative view of ABA prior to real experience with it because I didn't really know it. And a therapist friend of mine recommended a place, and she said, if you go there, they will change your mind on what ABA is. So I thought, you know what? If there were help on the moon, I would be there. So I will go anywhere. And we went in and we visited, talked to the director. She's a BCBA. We walked out and I said, this is it. Like, this is the answer to my prayers. It was one-on-one. It was intensive. It was just exactly what he needed. And he's been there a year now. He's a different kid. So ABA, definitely.
And I think there's so many different kinds. Like my daughter's now 15, and I remember just having this struggle in my mind. The only kind that's really been researched is like the discrete trial. You sit at a table, you do things over and over, but there's so many other kinds of ABA to look into that they can make fun and enjoyable. And like, I mean, my daughter hated it for the first bit, but then when she understood it, she loved it because she was getting rewarded all the time. So it was like, and then she was learning within it and they were using her interests and really, so yeah, I think it's important if someone does have that bad thought about ABA, just to look into the different kinds, and maybe you just haven't found the right place because,
Right. I think finding the right place, because with anything, I mean, there are good doctors and there are bad doctors, and you need to look for good ones. And it's the same with therapists. You need to find a good therapist. You need to find a place that's a good fit for your child and your family. And thankfully we found that. And it has just been like, I could sing praises of ABA all day long. And I actually just started a new job with a nonprofit in West Virginia. It's called the Mountaineer Autism Project. And we are proponents of ABA. So working on that, trying to just make that more readily available for kids in the state, because right now we're really underserved. So we have a lot of projects going on trying to bring in more BCBAs and to get everybody those services, because they're amazing.
Yeah, I mean, that's fantastic. I love that you're giving back in the midst of everything you're going through. I mean, your son is still very young and you're already giving back. And I think for us as parents, that's part of being okay in our journey, is realizing we now have skills we can share with others and better other people's lives. We didn't go through it for nothing. So now that you also, okay, you're so a speech pathologist, and so you were a speech pathologist before, and then you had this child, beautiful child with autism. So how do you approach your students differently?
Completely differently. I think I used to look at kids and I would see a goal and think, okay, this is that thing we have to fix, and we're going to get 90% on this today. And it was very on paper, if
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense. It was about this is the goal and this is what we have to do. And now I look at kids more as a whole and think, okay, we're working on this, but why? Like, why do I want them to show me this picture? How is that going to affect their everyday? Just seeing them as not a goal to fix, but how can I help them? And I think all therapists, you want to help. That's obviously why you go into that profession. But just seeing it on a very personal level changed that for me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, I mean, I bet, I can't even tell you, I bet that you do such a, I'm sure you did an incredible job before, but even more so just to be able to relate to the moms. And I just remember having therapists that didn't have kids, and then after they had kids, it was a different ball game. It was like they understood the emotions of a
Yeah.
mom. And you talked about this in your book also, but we are not in check. Like and that's what I try to explain to people. Like, there's no way to control your emotions. You love this child too much. You have too much at stake. You can't think clearly. And it's just like us requiring moms or pretending that they're going to be thinking clearly during this situation is just, it's impossible. We can't, you know?
Right. Well, and I think like goal setting as a therapist, I would, okay, here's what they need, and I would set goals. And now I look at it, what goals do the parents want? Because as a parent, I feel like my goals are way different than what a therapist who's known him for an hour would set up, you know? So I think that's really important to, I guess I consider the whole family now as opposed to this kid, here's this goal,
Yeah.
because autism is the whole family, and it's not just your kid. It's siblings, it's mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's for sure. Well, what advice do you have for someone with a new diagnosis, a parent that has just had a child diagnosed?
So many things. I think what you said, and I believe you said this in a video before too, but giving back, I feel like it kind of gives you purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And if people are brand new in it, they're thinking, well, you're crazy because I'm the one who needs help right now. But I think you can quickly get to that point of, okay, I've learned this. Now, how can that help somebody else?
Mm-hmm.
And that's really where my writing came from, because at first it was just cathartic to get it out there.
Yeah.
And I didn't share my writings with anybody. And then it got to the point where I thought, you know what, I need to share this for Colin because I want people to understand him. I want them to know what he's going through and hopefully not judge because, he's just a bad kid or you're a bad mom because you let him do that. And I wanted to kind of fix that misconception. And then when I started to share my blogs, I would get messages of like, wow, I feel that way too. I just didn't know how to say it. And I
Right.
think it gives you connections to other moms, and then you don't feel alone because you can feel really isolated because you think you're the only one who has a kid who's going through A, B, or C. But
Yeah.
then you start to talk about it and you realize there are a lot of us out there. You're not alone.
Yeah. I mean, and just for some reason, knowing we're not alone. I mean, that's key to knowing, okay, I'm not the only person going through this. Or I think as moms, it's really hard to explain just the gamut of emotions that we deal with. We deal with so much guilt, even though we know it's not our fault, we still deal with guilt. And we deal with all kinds of like emotions of, I shouldn't feel this way. I can't believe I thought of my child like this, or even things that you do to your kids trying to help them that end up being really bad ideas. It's kind of, like, I'm a horrible mom. Look what I did.
Uh-huh.
And I just think we deal with all those emotions, and we just need to know, okay, we're not abnormal. We're not bad mothers. We're just dealing with life as best we can, and we're all kind of doing the same stuff, same mess ups, you know. So anyway, there's something to feeling that, okay, we're not alone in this. So that's fantastic. Yeah, thank you.
Well, I think too, one thing people said to me, like through infertility and now it's autism, God won't give you more than you can handle. And that's not biblical at all. Nowhere in the Bible does it say that, but people misconstrue verses, and they come from a good place. They want to say something nice and they want to encourage you. But I felt like when people would say that to me, it's like, oh, well then I don't want to be a strong person, because then all this stuff is going to come at me because apparently I can handle it. But you're not alone, you know, like I have my faith and we've talked about that. But that's where you have your community, and you don't do it alone. You know, if you have family that you're close to, use them and let them be a part of your village. And then even, you know, meeting moms online that you don't really know in person, but sometimes that's a good lifeline. So you don't have to be strong all the time. And I feel like when people say that, that's what it feels like. And that's not the case. I think we have people in our lives at certain times when we need them, and they're here to help us and we can help them. And that's where our autism community comes from.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, that's beautifully said. It's just, I always hated it when people said that to me too, because it makes you feel like, well, guess what? I don't feel strong, you know, or I'd have people saying, oh, you deal with this so well. And I'm like, no, I don't. You just see me putting on my best face when I'm out here. You know, you see me sharing my best, but I am like in my house crying and tearing my hair out because I can't figure out how to help my kid, you know? So I like you saying that, because I do feel like moms feel that way. And I love that we need to let them know, you probably aren't strong as autism. Sorry, unless you're just more amazing than me, you know, and all the moms I know. But you know, we're not strong enough to do it on our own. We have to have that community. We have to have, for me, it's faith as well, you know, and everyone finds their way, but you need to draw on other sources and not try and do it all yourself, because you just won't. You won't be able to. So all right. Well, I do have, let's see, one more question. I always like to ask everyone, how do you take care of yourself? Because as moms, that seems so cliche, but we have to find a way to just do something for ourselves if we're going to survive this. So how do you take care of yourself?
I think writing. Writing is, some people think, they're like, when do you sleep? You write all these things and whatever. But for me, like I guess it's an outlet. And so like after the kids go to bed, I'll write blogs or, you know, work on ideas for more children's books. My husband's really amazing too. And he's good to say, you're going to leave the house today. I've got the kids, you go do something. So I have that too. And my family is really good. You know, we have grandparents who are, you know, helpful, and my dad has my son at therapy today, so I could do interviews and things like that. So I just have a good support system, so that helps.
Yeah, well, that's amazing. Okay, well, yeah, I've noticed that I think we have to go back to what we love, and I did this interview, like a questionnaire on one of my mom's groups, just finding out, well, what do you do for your time? And it's always comes back to something that you saw yourself as or wanted to be, and it's not the same for any woman. And so, you know, so like writing would be fabulous for you, but someone else might think that was a nightmare. You know, it's just really trying to be in tune, stop for a minute, think of what you enjoy doing, and just take an hour to do it. It doesn't have to be any big deal, you know. So.
My husband actually got me a painting set for Christmas. So I've also been painting with Bob Ross, and I feel like it's really calming and relaxing. So I would definitely recommend that too.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's great. Well, I will put your blog down below, links to your blog, to your books, to your nonprofit, and everybody can check you out and connect with you. Kind of tell us where you are online, how they can connect.
Okay. So our nonprofit is mountaineerautismproject.org. My blog is the slpmom.com. I sometimes have an Instagram associated with that, and I sometimes don't. I feel like, I don't know, I get a little anxious with that sometimes, so I don't always have that. Let's see, that's it. officially.
Okay.
Like we've talked, I've had some things shared on the Mighty, and I've had a blog post on the American Speech Language Hearing blog. So I pop up in places every now and then.
Well, everyone will look for you, and I'll put the links below where they can follow you and hear more about your journey. So thank you so much for just taking the time to talk with us.
And sorry to interrupt. The books are on Amazon if anybody wants those.
Okay, we can put the links to those down there too.
Okay.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank
Have
you.
a great afternoon. Bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed what you heard today. I hope you got some great tips, and I hope you feel maybe a little bit less alone. If you'd like to see more interviews like this, you can check me out on all the socials, and the handle is @United in Autism. Also, check out YouTube for videos, and I hope we see you again next week. Thanks so much.